Today I'm gonna do something different. What you see here right now is a kind of platformer game that I developed maybe about 10 years from now. You see you can climb on walls, kind of. There's no animation on the character except for like every third jump there's a spinning animation. So it's doing like a somersault. But okay, so this is a platform game that I built around 10 years ago maybe. Yeah, so how was this built? Today we're gonna explore a little bit how a program looks like. And I mean, if you're working with programming, you usually get in a situation like you start at the company, you start working, and then there's a ton of code already written about something, and you have to quickly get up to speed and understand what the code is all about and etc. So what I was going to do here was just give a little bit of a walkthrough about this program, and on the way give some ideas and tips on how to read code, because that in a way that's something they don't teach you when you go to university, and like practical things like how do you actually read a lot of code. So as you can see, it has a kind of basic physics engine, and one important thing to say about this game is that it's written 100% in JavaScript, and it's written without any kind of library or anything. It's just plain. I'm using the browser here, getting a canvas. I'm drawing on the canvas images, bitmaps, shapes, and then after each frame redraw everything in white, and then on the next frame I start drawing again. So this is in every sense of the word, it's like a really old style platformer. And the physics in this game is also something I implemented with JavaScript and some basic math. You can see there are some small rabbits here, but it's kind of broken. If you bump them, they move and such. I was going to build something more sophisticated like Super Mario physics, where you could stand on top of enemies, but I never got to that point. And as you can see, it's fairly rough on the edges, this game. Okay, so what I did was I cloned the repository. So here's the Spaceman. I'm using Visual Studio Code because that's a really nice editor, and I cloned the repository. And what can we see here then? The first thing, if you want to look at the project, is look at the pack. If there's a readme file, you can read that one also. This game was here. It has some descriptions of here it says how to start, how to play, a screenshot, etc. So the readme is always the first go-to when you open a project. And we can see here there's a start script here. We can look on that one. What does it do? Okay, it requires Express. Note here that when I wrote this one, I didn't even use a bundler. I didn't even use a bundler. I put all the files in the public folder here. And as you can see in this start script here, this is a JavaScript file that runs in Node. It just grabs Express. Express is a minimalistic web server. Public is a static resource. So in public in this case is the directory here, and then it says listen to port is 3000, and then it just types listen on console. So what you can see here, I ran npm start, and that's also in the package here. You can see usually package.json has a start command that you can see here. So you can run the start command by typing npm start here. You run it, and then you can see here the code. It listens on port 3000. So that's how it starts. There's no building, there's nothing. There's just a bunch of JavaScript files and images in the public. And yeah, so we can look here. The index, yeah, as you can see, this is super simplistic actually. This is not how you would do it in a production. You would use a bundler or something. But in this case, I just made an index HTML file this is essentially where the web browser kicks in. We can see it has a canvas here. That's the thing that we draw on. and it loads a couple of scripts, and you can see this whole game has only 4 source code files that are named here: engine, player, bunny. That was supposed to be an enemy or some creature living in this world. And then we have a world here, and you can see them here on the side. If the text is hard to read, you can increase the resolution on your YouTube player so you can see the text. So these are the files. If we look into maybe engine is where everything starts. So one thing I would like to say is that when you read code, like this is maybe not a good example, because when you read this you only have 4 source code files. But I would like to say anyways, like when you read code in a project where maybe there are hundreds of files, you can browse things through this, use the file structure. But what I often do is more than often than not is I use global search. Like if you want to know, like okay, so we're inside the game engine here. It's a bunch of code. It's log something in the beginning. It's I can already reveal that the main thing happens here, the game loop. And what I often use when I read code that others, this is something I wrote 10 years ago, so to me it's kind of new code in some way. I forgot the details of it. So, like for example, there's a function game loop here. So where's that called from? So I do Control Shift F, so I get this global search. So here I can see, okay, so game loop is actually called in the world here. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that when you read code that other people wrote, the file structure is usually less relevant. The more relevant thing to do is to just find the main entrance of this program, which is apparently here. Here we call the game loop. Here we generate the world, we render the world maybe a first time, and then we enter the game loop. So you do global search.